Captain America bombed. Thunderbolts, which is the most critically acclaimed Marvel movie in years, did not even get close to breaking even. And now Marvel's looking to a stretchy nerd, a fireball himbo, a see-through scientist, and a rock man to save the franchise. Now, I've always been a fan of Fantastic Four. The whole premise of the IP is a very interesting one that really captures the spirit of the superhero comic book landscape, and I also feel like it's a good strategy by the MCU execs to want to include it in this next phase we're entering, and even start with it. The movie is supposed to be Marvel's Hail Mary. A whole lot rests on the shoulders of this film. This movie could determine the trajectory of Marvel moving forward, at least for the entirety of Phase 6. If the movie really succeeds, that snowball effect can lead to rejuvenated interest and hype for Marvel movies, which in turn will lead to more successes. If the movie flops, well, then that's a problem. So yeah, it's a big deal. Now the big question is, can Fantastic Four actually pull it off? Can it save the MCU? And that is what I'm going to try and answer, so stick with me here. So looking at 2024 so far, it's been rough for Marvel. Captain America Brave New World had all the hype in the world, much like this one has, and then crashed harder than Thor's Dignity after Ragnarok. It pulled in only $341 million worldwide, one of the worst performances for a solo MCU film. For comparison, even Quantumania, despite how utterly subpar that movie was, did $470 million. Now Thunderbolts, critics loved it. 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, 93% audience score. But barely $380 million at the box office. Great reviews, but empty seats. Marvel's not just flopping now, but they're even flopping with critical acclaim. At least with Quantumania and the Marvels, no one likes those, so it made sense they would flop. But Thunderbolts was actually good, yet it still flopped. So what's going on this year? Because we need to understand that for us to know whether Fantastic Four can actually solve that problem. And no, it's not superhero fatigue. I personally don't believe that's a thing. A clear example that proves it's a myth is the Superman movie, which is just absolutely making rounds in theaters right now. So first of all, there's a quantity over quality problem. And I'm sure you guys have heard something like this before, but I don't think you understand just how much it's hurting Marvel releases. Kevin Feige himself admitted it. 127 plus hours of content since 2019. For comparison, Phase 3 had only 24 hours of content across 11 movies. Now you have all these movies and series that you have to keep up with. All that content creates confusion. People aren't sure if they need to watch Moon Knight to understand Deadpool. Spoiler, you don't, but maybe you do, who even knows anymore? Another thing we have to consider is the budget of these films, because that's really important as well. And I don't see a lot of people talking about this particular thing. MCU production budgets are widely known to be outlandish, perhaps some of the most outlandish in Hollywood. Brave New World reportedly cost $180 million to make, including marketing. That goes up significantly to potentially almost $280 million. It needed at least $430 million just to break even. And that's even if we're going by the fact that it actually cost $180 million, which to be honest, I highly doubt that it did. MCU movies have been getting more expensive after Infinity War and Endgame. Thor: Love and Thunder cost $250 million to make. The Marvels cost $200. The Eternals cost $236 million. So if the movies have been getting more expensive ever since, why would they suddenly start getting cheaper? Especially in 2025, where movie production is the most expensive it has ever been. Ask any studio or movie production company, they'll tell you firsthand. And so reports according to some sources claim that the budget is actually closer to $350 million, including marketing. If that sounds crazy, yes, it is crazy. And these reports claim it's also due to extensive reshoots, which have just become like a staple of the MCU and just Disney in general. They do a test screening for a group of people, and if those people don't like a particular part of the film, they try and do damage control. You could build an actual Captain America shield with that budget, and I'm not joking. But sadly, that's just the case with movie production these days. It is expensive. And if the movies moving forward are going to do well, budget is an important factor that has to be looked into, because not every movie is going to be Infinity War or Spider-Man or Civil War, and that's just the reality. Well, now that we've talked about why Marvel has had a rough year, let's talk about whether Fantastic Four can actually save them. Marvel's first family, the reboot no one could quite get right previously, and I'm looking at you, Fan4Stick. To be clear, this isn't just another Marvel movie. This is a make or break movement, as I've said previously. So obviously they did everything they could to try and make it appeal to the most amount of people. The movie's got that retro futuristic style, and it's a fresh story, not a multiverse mindbender, which is actually really refreshing because everything just seems to be really confusing these days. The movie's budget is $200 million, which means it will need to make at least $500 million to break even. That is a really high bar to climb. Industry insiders are optimistic. Box Office Pro predicts it's gonna have a $100 million opening weekend, which is just miles ahead of Captain America and Thunderbolts. So why do people think Fantastic Four might be the savior? Why is there so much hype around it? Well, for starters, it's a simple story with familiar characters. No variants, no timelines, just one family and their cosmic freak accident. It truly does feel like a reset. We've got them in another dimension with their true Fantastic Four aesthetic. You know, with the tight blue suits and whatnot. They presented them in the element that everyone knows and love. And in the movie, they're up against Silver Surfer and Galactus, which again, everyone is familiar with and everyone is looking forward to see how they're going to bring that to the big screen in a better way. So nostalgia's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but fans are still expecting something new. We also have to consider how the stakes are very clear in this movie. Everyone knows who Silver Surfer and Galactus are. Everyone knows they are not the guys to mess with, so there's sort of a reputation already for the cast to latch onto and really embody. And if they do it right, and I'm talking about the Fantastic Four as well, it's going to have great results. Because it's also easier than having to develop a new supervillain from scratch, and people just gravitate towards nostalgia these days. The proof is everywhere, you're not going to dispute that. This is all, of course, depending on if the actors and the writers nail the characters. Anyway, the movie does have the potential to turn things around if it succeeds, but if Fantastic Four flops, Marvel is going to have a very hard time. Because it's not just about money, it's also about trust. The trust that Marvel movies matter, that their stories still resonate with hundreds of millions around the world, that fans still care. The studio is trimming budgets, tightening timelines, and just desperately praying for a hit. But the audience has the final say, so let's examine what we've got here. Best case scenario, Fantastic Four crushes it. Great reviews, big numbers, and finally, a Marvel movie that feels both new and classic. I know, right? It's almost inconceivable. Worst case scenario, the movie ends up being bad, or goofy, or shallow, and another one of their movies gets ignored. At which point, Marvel's decline becomes almost inevitable. It's not about multiverses anymore. We're past that. Now it's about making a great movie. Anyway, what do you guys think? Will the Fantastic Four be Marvel's next Avengers or just another Eternals? I mean, I'm just laughing thinking about it. That would be bad. That would be very bad. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And to round this off, I want to point out something very funny that I saw online. At least it was funny to me. It said Pedro Pascal might be the new face of the MCU, like Iron Man. Well, it's all fine and dandy if he's the new face of the MCU, but like Iron Man, come off it, bro. My guy could never, and I mean no one, is becoming the new Iron Man, so let's just let that sink in. Anyway, if you like this video, do also give it a thumbs up and subscribe because it really helps the channel a lot, you have no idea, and I'll see you in the next one.